Okay, so make sure you have the movie review Google document. Do you have that clicked?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. You got a little panda bear? Is that a little panda? What is that? It's a cute little bear of some kind. Is it a bear? What is that?
Yeah.
So I just want to give you a little backstory. When you think about a movie review, what's the purpose? Do you like going to see movies? Okay, I don't know if you know this. Even if a movie is released straight to streaming, we talked about this last month on Netflix or Hulu or Apple TV. I don't know if you know this. You can look up the review of that. Did you know that? Anything that is released by a studio usually has some kind, especially if it's a film, even TV shows are reviewed. Why would you want to look at a review?
To see if it's like a good movie and it's not like violent or like that.
Right. Maybe content wise, you want to make sure if it's appropriate. Even I'm pretty picky about content. I am not a fan of horror movies. So if, like a friend wants to go see one, I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. And the review said this and this was in it. And that just freaks me out. Right. Okay. So a film review is usually done by someone quite credible. I don't know if you know this. Film critics actually go to film school. So they're very learned for the most part. So a journalist or an experienced critic will watch a movie found on streaming or in the theater on YouTube, and they will explain in writing what the movie is about, who the actors are, who is the director, if there's anything special about it. And then at the end, they will give you their recommendation if they liked it or disliked it. Why? First of all, it's a public service, which is kind of cool. And secondly, I don't know about you, maybe in the pandemic, we had all the time in the world when we were stuck at home, but we don't. I don't want to waste my time. And I especially remember we talked last week about how expensive movies are. I don't want to waste my money and a couple of hours of my time on a movie that's not good. Do you? So a film review is written as a service for the general public to view, and they're found on social media, online in newspapers, magazines, or websites. My favorite is Rotten Tomatoes. Love Rotten Tomatoes, and I'll tell you why. I always think of the analogy of tomatoes. So during the Renaissance era, they would throw tomatoes at criminals, right? To let you know, we don't approve. Legend has it tomatoes were thrown at actors at the Shakespeare theater, at the Shakespeare Globe. If audiences were disappointed in a show, they would literally throw tomatoes on the stage at the bad performers. So I never forget that site, Rotten Tomatoes, because of that connection. Tomatoes were seen as a symbol of poor quality, and thus throwing them at someone would be the equivalent of telling them they were not good enough. The first actual sign of this was 1883. It was a stage performance in New York City. So don't mess with an audience, right? And maybe that's just a sign of how serious people take their entertainment, right? Or how much their expectations are, how high their expectations are set. Reviews are written prior to or shortly after a film is released in a movie theater. Most of the time it's prior to. The assumption is made that the person who's reading the film has not seen the film review, has not seen the film. The review should include the main characters, naming the actors, a short summary of the plot, who the director is, and any previous films they have credited with, along with any recommendations to help someone decide whether or not they want to see the film. It is very important not to give away any spoilers. This makes people mad. It can ruin if there's a pivotal scene. There's this really interesting discussion about Star Wars, and one of the plot spoilers was everyone said Darth Vader was Luke's father. Well, in German, Vader actually means father. So if you know language, it's not really a spoiler, but for a lot of people, they don't want to know that. It ruins the movie for them. Can a film reviewer be brutally honest? Absolutely. Think about this. This is a personal judgment about a quality of the movie with the intention of telling the consumer who reads the review to watch it or avoid watching it. Explain whether it's worth their time or effort or if it's not. So qualities of reviews vary. It's dependent upon the professionalism and credentials of the movie reviewer, which is why I tell you, I tend to agree with Rotten Tomatoes reviews. And what's really cool about Rotten Tomatoes, they call it a tomato meter, and they'll have this like a tomato like splat, but they'll have an audience review and then they'll have a critic's review. And the critics are harder. Like the audience will be like, 90%. And the audience will be like 55. So I always look to see if they match. That's what I like about Rotten Tomatoes. Some movie critics take their jobs very seriously, and they will write elaborately, carefully constructed reviews. Others will give you a percentage. For example, out of 100%, I'd give this an 80. Right? Out of 100%, I give this a 40. Well, if you're given a 40, what are you going to conclude from that? Yeah, I'm going to stream now and set my expectations real low, right? Have you ever, taken someone's review or taken someone's advice about a movie and they didn't like it and you did?
Yeah.
It does happen. So you really want to go to the same reviewers or the same sources. My other one is Roger Ebert, very famous old school critics. They would give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Real simple. That's a whole yes or a whole no, right? Okay, go to the next page. So this is according to the New York Film Academy. Film reviews tend to be fairly short, approximately 600 to 1,200 words. I am not going to make you write that much. I'm going to say a minimum of 250, a maximum of 500, but they require a lot of preparation. Okay, so be listening carefully because this is me telling you what I'm going to want you to do. I want you to write a film review of anything you've seen in the last 6 months. It could be anywhere, streaming, in the movie theater, on YouTube. It has to be a film. It can be a short film. Can it be an Indian film? Absolutely. Any film that you've seen in the last 6 months. So I'm going to ask you the question. Have you seen a movie in the last 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay. It'd be better if you've seen it twice, but you don't have to have seen it twice. It's impossible a lot of times to capture everything in one shot. So that's why in a formal film review, they ask you to watch the movie twice. I'm not asking you to do that, but it does help with memory if you want to watch it again. So professional reviewers do not shy away from telling readers whether they thought a movie was good, bad, or so-so. Readers rely on those reviewers whose tastes reflect their own. So if you're going to give a good review, back it up, right? So let's say hypothetically, what's the last movie you saw?
Mario.
Oh, Mario. Okay. So maybe you liked the cool graphics in Mario. It simulated what was in the game, in the actual game, right? So maybe that's something. I was disappointed by the movie because it really didn't develop the characters. Do you see what I mean? Whichever way you're going to do, but back up if it was a disappointing performance, if it was a ridiculous plot, if the graphics were great, if the graphics were not good. Be prepared to back up your it's not good or it's really good. Consider your audience. Who are you writing for? Okay, well, your audience is kind of me, but it's really anyone that's going to come see the movie. Talk about the actors, the voices. In Super Mario, who played Mario? Do you know who the voice was?
No.
The actor who played, very famous people were in Super Mario. Don't know if you know that. Very famous actors. All you would have to do is click on Rotten Tomatoes and it would give you a list of all the actors. Because click on the movie or the trailer. Talk about the acting. Does the film feature a seasoned actor? And yes, all of Mario had seasoned actors play the voices. Did you like how they handled the script? Do you like the character connections, the chemistry between the characters? Who directed the film? What was pretty cool about the graphics? No spoilers. Don't tell me what happens. As with all writing endeavors, the more you read, the better. When you read film reviews that you like or don't like, think about why. So your research is going to be, so let's say Super Mario is the most recent movie you saw. Here's what I would suggest you do. You need to go to different film review sites and look up the reviews. So, and I'll give you some sites here, and just put movie reviews. All you have to do is scan movie reviews. You can go to Rotten Tomatoes. What did they say about it? What did another source say about it? What did another source say about it? And that's perfectly fair game as long as you don't copy what they said. And I'll know because it won't sound like you, right? But it's okay to research what they say about it. I will hear your voice. Every critic has a personality and a voice in their writing. So be careful of that. So I want you to scroll to Guardians of the Galaxy. And I wish I had thought about doing Super Mario Brothers, but what I did was I found an actual review of Guardians of the Galaxy. This review was done May 6, 2023. So this was 3 days ago. It's 286 words. So you can get an idea of how much I'm expecting here. Okay. Putting a cute raccoon center stage, James Gunn is taking no chances with this slick, mischievous, supposedly final third installment of the Marvel series. While much of Marvel's output has rather blurred together of late into a gaudy onslaught of overplotted multiverse hopping, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies have, for better or worse, always had a distinctive personality. What elevates Volume 3, supposedly the final film in the GOTG series, is the way it keeps that personality, nodding to the irreverent swagger that is a crucial component of the Guardians' USP, while delivering a series of devastating emotional sucker punches along the way. So is the language rich? Did someone who is very learned write this? Yeah, this is someone who is a writer who wrote this. To achieve this, director and co-writer James Gunn takes the fail-safe heartstring twanging route of placing adorable animals in peril, exploring Rocket the Raccoon's traumatic backstory and touching on some unexpectedly dark themes, eugenics and vivisection in the process. There's a kinship with Bong Joon-ho's Okja. Both pictures celebrate loyalty and friendship while also acknowledging humanity's capacity for unimaginable cruelty to other species. As a young, impossibly cute kid, Rocket, voiced by Bradley Cooper, very famous actor, Academy Award actor, fell into the hands of the high evolutionary Chukwudi Iwuji, a mad scientist with a god complex who believes that a perfect society starts in a macabre animal testing laboratory. This is the summary of this story. Rocket escaped, but in doing so, he was separated from his soulmate, Leela, Linda Cardinelli, also a famous actress, a pure-hearted otter with prosthetic metal arms. Now the high evolutionary wants to recapture his most successful experimental subject, and he sends beautiful gilt-edged dullard Adam Warlock, Will Poulter, great fun, to reclaim the raccoon. Classic rock, needle drops, and showy snaking single-shot action sequences, but both Guardian of the Galaxy trademarks abound in a picture that balances a slightly overstuffed storyline with mischief, humor, and the biggest of hearts. So did that sound like a good review? Okay, the reason I gave you that one is because I've read another review that panned it, that said it was the worst of all three of the trilogy, and don't bother unless you're an absolute fan of Guardian of the Galaxy. It's a waste of your time. So fascinating that you can go to one site and get a really good review and go to another site that says it was the worst ever. So who do you listen to? Well, like I told you, you go to a site where, when you've looked at their you know, you've looked at their reviews and you go see the movie and you agree with their reviews, then that's where you go back, because you kind of trust, well, they kind of have the same idea about movies that you do. So I'm a little nervous about Guardian of the Galaxies, and I've seen volume 1 and 2. And the bad review made me not want to go see it because movies are expensive. So I don't know if I'm going to, but based on that one, people liked it. Okay, so let's go to your assignment, and I'm going to break down exactly how to do this. According to Duke University, the film review is a popular way for critics to assess a film's overall quality and determine whether or not they think the film is worth recommending. Film reviews encompass personal and idiosyncratic reactions to and evaluations of the film, as well as objective analyses of the film's formal techniques and thematic content. Many film critics have studied for years in college and are experts when it comes to movies. So they may look at films differently. That kind of answers my question, doesn't it? If I go to like a really hardcore film critic, they're probably not going to like half of the movies I like, because they're looking microscopically at a film for everything wrong, right? I just want to enjoy a film. How about you? So here's what I want you to do for this essay. You're going to follow this format. So you're going to notice on this page, I kind of have, it has 6 things on it. On this page is a blank outline. Okay. So the blank outline is all of those same 6 things. So I put it on this page so you could kind of write it out. So your introduction. In the opening of your review, provide some basic information about the film. So for example, in Guardian of the Galaxies, this is the third. So this is the 3rd installment, right? And apparently the last. It is a Marvel series, Guardian of the Galaxy. So that would be your introduction. Include the film's name, the year it was released. So that just released, 2023. Names of the director, they said James Gunn. Screenwriter, major actors. You know, I wish they would have mentioned that, because you do know who the major actor is in Guardians of the Galaxy, don't you? Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, very well-known names. A film review, number 2, must contain a thesis or main claim. This is when the reviewer gives their objective opinion. So this is when you say, and they kind of did, what elevates volume 3, the final film, is the way it keeps that personality, nodding to the irreverent swagger that is a crucial component of the Guardians franchise. And it delivers emotional sucker punches along the way. It's a good review, isn't it? So you're going to tell them right away what you think of the film. 3rd and 4th, you're going to do a plot summary. Now, a plot summary is not like really intense. Give enough plot summary where you give specific details without giving certain things away. It will give you a general sense of what the film is about, include a detailed description of, in particular, look at the graphics in the film, the sound. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy, every single one of these movies, I don't know if you know this, Viomini, they have an incredible rock music soundtrack. Like, I'm talking 80s, 90s, the soundtrack is hopping and rocking the whole time. Because in the first installment, he kind of had a tape that was his mixtape. Do you know what a mixtape is? A mixtape, you can have it on your iPad or your iPod, your phone. A mixtape is a collection of all your favorite songs that make you happy. It's a mixtape. You can give a mixtape to someone, say, these are all love songs. I love you. Here's a mixtape. So it kind of is, music is a big part. So that's what you would include in the description. And then in the last section, analysis and conclusion, this is when you just point out anything special about the film, the lights, the sounds, the characters, the way the film looks, feels, and sounds. And then you will conclude with your final thoughts and impressions of the film. And this is the time you will tell the reader, should they see the film or should they pass? Okay, so if you go to this page, and I'm going to scroll down in the document here. I'm going to scroll all the way down. You'll notice what I did is I took those same 6, and notice I said for this assignment, the film review should be short. I'm not trying to kill you. Remember the one I just did on Guardians of the Galaxy? This was 286. 286. So 250 is the minimum. So does that fit the requirement? I don't want more than 500. 500 would probably be a full page. I'm not asking you to do that. Use this form. So the first paragraph, you're going to have 3 sections: introduction, and then the thesis. The second paragraph, a brief plot summary and a detailed description of favorite and least favorite scenes, right? Third paragraph, describe the best and worst or worst features of the film, cinematography, setting, sound, the feel of the movie, and then give a final evaluation and recommendation of the film. So this one kind of has 3 and a little extra. I probably should have just kind of put that together that way. Remember, this was a legitimate, I mean, I literally took it off the website. So I'm going to ask you to format it more formally than the website, just to be clear. And we're going to use Duke University's format. Sound good? All right. Any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so not a difficult assignment. So let me just say one thing before I let you go, and I'm actually going to let you go a couple minutes early because this was an easier assignment. You don't have to pick a movie you love. Sometimes movie reviews that are awful are very entertaining to read. It's almost like sometimes it's easier for a critic to pick apart a movie than it is to find something good in it, right? So you don't have to pick Mario Brothers. You can pick anything. So I'm going to caution you and tell you, pick a movie that makes you feel strong emotion one way or the other. You loved it or hated it. If you pick a movie that's kind of in the middle, you were indifferent, your review is going to be kind of indifferent. Does that make sense? Topic choice is everything. Pick the right movie. Can you, Theomini, watch a new movie and tell your parents, I've got a new assignment? Yeah, totally. I mean, why not? But here's my suggestion. If you do that, go look up the reviews of the movie before you do it. Right? Because you don't want to waste your time seeing something you'll dislike, right? Okay, so there's a lot of thought that goes into these. Do your research, pick the right film, and you'll be okay. All right, so this is week 2. When do y'all leave for your, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then you can tell me.